Hello and welcome to this presentation on ETSI's collaboration with the NSOs and NSBs. In this we will explore the roles of national standards organisations and national standardisation bodies and the interplay with ETSI. The purpose of this presentation is to clarify the essential role the NSOs and the NSBs play in the field of European telecommunications, broadcasting and other electronic communication networks and services. An ETSI NSO is an organisation established in a country falling within the geographical area of the European Conference of Postal and Telecommunications Administration countries, in short the CEPT. NSOs develop, maintain and coordinate voluntary standardisation activities in their respective countries. They typically represent the interests of various stakeholders, including businesses, consumers, academia and also the government. On the slide you see the list of CEPT countries. These organisations are recognised by their governments as being authorised to make standards available to the public at a national level. Each national delegation must inform the ETSI Director General and the relevant councillor in writing about the designated NSO in their country. This is a quick overview of all the ETSI NSOs. The full details and links to each NSO are provided on the ETSI website. For your information, most of the ETSI NSOs are also CEN-CENELEC national bodies. Let's take a closer look at the NSBs. When ESOs execute standardization requests in support of union legislation and policies, it is essential that their internal decisions take into account the interests, policy objectives and values of the European Economic Area, as well as public interests in general. Therefore, decisions concerning European standards, commonly named ENs, and European standardization deliverables elaborated in response to EU EFTA standardization requests must be taken exclusively by representatives of NSBs. And who are the NSBs? To put it simply, the NSBs are the NSOs from the 27 EU member states plus Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway. In other terms, they are NSOs from the European Economic Area which have signed the ETSI NSO agreement and are listed in the official journal of the European Union. See link provided on the top of this page. Let's have a look at the roles and functions of NSOs and NSBs. An NSO is responsible for carrying out activities related to the development and adoption of standards at the national level and also to make these standards available to the public on a national level. NSOs are central to this process, contributing to the creation of a unified European market for goods and services, which in turn strengthens Europe's economic position on the global stage. Each eligible NSO has the exclusive responsibility for implementing the standstill procedure, conducting the public inquiry, establishing the national position for voting, transposing the adopted EN's international standards, and withdrawing standards. The NSOs have their own rules on how these functions are carried out. The NSOs play a crucial role in engaging stakeholders across European and CEPT countries, raising awareness of ETSI's work, and promoting the deliverables. They communicate in local languages, understand local stakeholders, and interact with governments. In accordance with Article 10 of Regulation EU No. 1025/2012, the Commission may request one or more European standardisation organisations to draft a European standard or European standardisation deliverables. European standards and standardisation deliverables are crucial for the internal market and consumer protection. They define the technical aspects of products and services while ensuring safety, quality, and environmental protection. Harmonised standards can provide a presumption that products comply with essential requirements set by Union harmonisation legislation. Decisions on European standards and standardisation deliverables requested by the Commission are made only by the NSBs. The Commission should only issue requests to European standardisation organisations that meet this requirement. Therefore, an NSB has the same activities as the NSOs listed in the previous slide, plus they have the exclusive responsibility for accepting or rejecting the submitted standardisation requests, adopting, changing or stopping the work items standardisation requested, establishing the national position of the represented country, and adopting the withdrawal of European standards or European standardisation deliverables. And finally, they transpose these adopted European standards into national standards. Following the adoption of a new work item and prior to the drafting of the ETSI deliverable, The Director General shall notify the NSOs and the European Commission of the start of a standstill period as described in Article 13.3 of the ETSI Technical Working Procedures, contained in the ETSI directives. Standstill shall only apply to an individual work item with a precise scope and target date. An application dedicated to standstill is available on the ETSI Toolkit page, which is available from the ETSI portal. This slide shows the graphic approval process when 1. An EN is produced under EN approval process, also called ENAP, see the top line, and when 2. An EN is produced under SRDAP, see the bottom line. We clearly see that an EN requested by an EU EFTA standardization request, shown on the bottom line, has a first step called Standardization Request Acceptance, which is under the NSB's responsibility, and this is not the case for an EN requested by members, shown on the top line. Nevertheless, the deliverable adoption process is quite similar. This will be detailed in the following slides. During the drafting by the European Commission of a new standardization request, it is expected that the European Commission consults and involves ETSI in this process to comment and/or propose modifications to the working draft standardization request text. ETSI will involve its relevant technical groups, the NSBs, the NSOs, Annex 3 organizations, the board, and the OCG. However, it is the sole responsibility of the eligible NSBs to accept or reject the submitted standardization requests and to adopt, change, or stop the work items. The acceptance of a standardization request and work item adoption processes are described in another tutorial called SRDAP Guidelines, which is also available on the ETSI website. The adoption process of standards comprises a public inquiry and at least one weighted national vote performed in a combined procedure by the NSOs or NSBs, depending if the standard is produced under a standardization request or not. To sum up, the NSOs and NSBs are required to conduct consultations with their stakeholders over a 90-day period. During this time, they must gather and submit national comments and the national position to the Secretariat by the closing date of this combined procedure. Each NSO shall take measures to ensure the visibility of European standards or European standardization deliverables at the national level by either publishing an identical text or endorsing it through an official announcement shortly after ETSI's publication. Publication of an identical text means it shall match the original in technical content and presentation with no application restrictions. Endorsement involves officially stating an approval with relevant details. Once published or endorsed, these standards are granted the status of national standards. When it is decided that an EN or European standardization deliverable needs to be withdrawn, a notification will automatically be sent to all NSOs, NSBs with a direct link to the e-approval application. The deliverable will be submitted to withdrawal by applying the weighted national voting procedure. The process will take 60 calendar days. If the standard is elaborated on EU EFTA standardization requests, only the eligible NSBs are entitled to approve the withdrawal. Each NSB, whose official language is shown in the figure, is responsible for providing ETSI with a translation of the title of each European standard elaborated in response to EU EFTA standardization requests into its respective language, for the listing in the official journal of the European Union. If even one translation is missing, the European standard cannot be included in the official journal. Article 24 of Regulation 1025/2012 mandates that each European standardization organization submits a consolidated report on the implementation of the regulation to the European Union and the European Free Trade Association once a year. To fulfill this requirement, all NSOs are asked to provide their input to ETSI. ETSI then gathers and compiles all relevant data for submission to the European Commission. Still, in accordance with Regulation 1025/2012, the NSOs are required to establish and publicly share their work programs annually. They must also notify the European Commission and other stakeholders of these programs. Links to access all national work programs are available on the ETSI website. If you have any questions or suggestions to improve this webinar, please contact us at webvote-contact@etsy.org. Thank you for listening to this presentation.